In this video, I'm going to explain to you about attaching tacks, eyelets, press studs, rivets and bar tacks. This is a tack button and is used instead of a button, usually on denim garments or outerwear. This is a press stud and is used instead of a button and buttonhole. It comes in different types. And this is a press stud for knitwear. The rivets are used at places where you need extra reinforcement, such as the corners of pockets. They go through all the layers of the fabric. You can use a bar tack, but quite often it's too thick to be able to get a machine to do the bar tack through all the layers. These are eyelets. Eyelets are sometimes used so that you can lace up a garment. The tools that you need are a good sturdy surface, you need a hammer, a pair of pliers with wire cutters on them, some sharp pointed scissors, a pattern awl, but if you don't have a pattern awl you can use a nail, and the kits that you buy come with a cutting tool. If you don't have a solid table, you can always put your cutting board on the floor. You also need a way of marking the position for your eyelets and tacks. We'll do the rivets first and mark the centre position that you want to attach your rivet to. You want to have as small a hole as possible. So push your pattern awl or your nail all the way through the fabric so that you get a hole. And push the post. It's best to get these posts that have a serrated edge rather than the hollow ones. Push the post through both layers of fabric just to ease it so it's all the way through, because you don't want to make a bigger hole. The post is too long if you're only using 2 layers of fabric, so you need to cut it down for the rivet. It needs to be about 1mm higher than the fabric. So just use the wire cutters to cut the top off and just check that it's the right height for the rivet. If it's still a little bit too high, just take a little bit more off. Put the top of the rivet on the post and place it with the right side down on your board and give it a sharp hit with the hammer. When you've done one hit, just check that it's in the right position. If you want to protect the top of the rivet, just place it on a soft surface on top of the board. And that's the rivet secure. Just make sure that it can't turn in the fabric. If you're going through more layers of fabric, you just cut less off the post. Now we're going to attach the tack button. You do it in exactly the same way with your awl or your nail. Just be careful with your fingers. Make sure you've got a proper hole. Put the same post that you used for the rivet, same type of post that you used for the rivet, through the hole and push it all the way through from the wrong side. Because the post of the tack buttons is longer than the rivet, you won't need to cut the post down. So place the tack button face down on your board and give it a sharp tap. Just check that it's in the right position and give it a firmer tap. You need to make sure that it won't turn in the fabric, and then you know it's secure. If you've got some decoration on the top that might get damaged, place the tack button face down on some fabric. This is the best type of post to use. Now we're going to look at the eyelets. When you buy your eyelets, you'll get an attaching tool in the packet. It has two halves, and the half for the right side of the fabric will come out. Mark the centre of the eyelet position on your fabric. Now you're going to need to make a larger hole for this, but you want to make it as small as you can get away with. So start small and make it gradually bigger. Push the top of the eyelet through from the right side of the fabric to the wrong side. Make sure that the fabric will push down, right down to the table. Place the eyelet on the fixing tool and take the small ring and place it on top of the right side of the eyelet. The lip should be on the top side. Place the other side of the fixing tool on top, which should sit nicely in the centre, and give it a couple of good taps. The centre of the right side of the eyelet will fold out round the inside of the inside part of the eyelet and make it secure. You need to be sure that it won't pull away from the edges. If you have any frayed parts around the edge, you can just trim those away. Now we're going to look at the press studs. When you buy the packet of press studs, you'll get a set of fixing tools with the packet. These consist of a jaw which will hold the tools. You'll get an instruction leaflet which says which tools will attach which bits, and this jaw is what holds the tools. You get a hole maker and a cutting disc. There's 4 parts to each press stud. 2 go on one side, 2 go on the other side. First of all, take your fabric and mark the position of the underneath part of the press stud. going to use the cutting disc. You have a sharp side and a blunt side, and this will go into your jaw that they've given you with the set. That part goes onto the dot. You can hold it straight and then hit it with the hammer until the cutting tool goes all the way through the fabric. And then swap over the tools. You want to take the underneath post and push it through the hole. And then place the part that marries up with that on top. Take the corresponding parts from the instruction sheet and place them inside the jaw tool. Place the flat part on the first part of the jaw tool, fold it over so that it marries up with the other side, and hit it a few times with the hammer. This will secure it in place. Then you need to do exactly the same thing for the top part, but you'll need to put the right pieces onto the jaw for the top parts of the press stud. Again, you'll need to make a hole through the fabric, but check the position of it before you do. Place the top through from the right side, checking that you are using the right side. Just give it a short, sharp hit with a hammer. If it can turn in the fabric, it's too loose. So you need to just put it back into the jaw and just give it another hit. There, that's secure now. On the jersey fabric, you need to go through at least 2 layers, but you also need to have interlining inside, which is fused on to make sure that it's secure and will stop the fabric stretching. The press studs have little prongs on them that go through the fabric, again to try and stop it stretching and pulling away from the press stud. But you get full instructions. The technical officers also have some pliers which can be used instead of a hammer. You use exactly the same attachments, except for the cutting tool is 2 pieces which go either side of the jaws. And you use them to make the hole. And squeeze it tightly together and you'll hear a click as it cuts through the fabric. You can then swap over the parts in the pliers and use the corresponding attachments as per the instructions to attach the press studs. Can be a bit fiddly, but after a bit of practice you can get used to it. Just tightly squeeze the jaws together until you feel like the press stud is secure. Do it exactly the same way for the bottom half, but using the corresponding attachments. It's easier if you use the pointed side to line up with the mark. There's a sharp side to the hole maker and a blunt side. Just squeeze it together tightly until you know it's secure. You can always have a second go at squeezing them together. And that's the press stud done. So that's how to attach all of the parts that you're likely to need. It's a good idea to practice on a spare piece of fabric before you actually start doing it on your garment.